All right, okay, guys. Some more on evolution, okay? Now, I've put on, it's, when I say that there are people claiming knowledge that cannot be known, right? And then with that knowledge, they're talking everybody into believing this crap. Once people believe it, they then think it gives the people who are telling these tales a certain status in society as people who know, they have knowledge, therefore they are intelligent, therefore we'll give them a bit more money, a nice house and stuff, because they're doing the job. But listen to this garbage. Now, I listened to about 8-9 minutes of it, right? And thought, that just about tells the whole tale. But then I jump forward and listen to some more. And it's finding a bit that doesn't go on for too long, and it shows exactly what I'm talking about. Fortunately, it's everywhere, right? So I'm just stopped at a random 1323, right? And I'm not going to go on for more than 10 minutes. Listen to this rubbish.
Anatomy largely diverges in areas relevant to chewing. They may have practiced niche partitioning and foraged for different food items. So out of Kenyanthropus and the Australopithecines, which species is our direct ancestor? Many scientists think Afarensis is the ancestor of the later Homo species, and therefore us modern humans. But some scientists now feel Kenyanthropus's flat face.
Some scientists think this, but other scientists think that. So straight away, we're in good hands, because it's scientists who are, where are all of these scientists, right? Because they're definitely claiming knowledge that cannot be known, right? Which means it might not be scientists who are coming up with this garbage. That's what I'm saying.
And less pronounced brow ridges seem more closely related to Homo. Others in the scientific community believe more fossil evidence is needed before we can place Kenyanthropus within our...
But some scientists feel that there needs to be more evidence, more... Hey mate. All right, bud. All right, mate. Go down. Right. Just a little bit more evidence, which means they're not sure, really, at the end of the day.
Lineage, as the only known skull from the species, was found badly distorted. These scientists...
So, they only have one skull, that it's badly distorted, but they've linked that as the missing, one of the many missing chains between us and
believe Kenyanthropus platyops is no more than a variant of Afarensis. And remember, if they are in fact different species, our family tree is more like a bush, and therefore interbreeding between the two may have occurred, and both of their genomes could have made their way down the line and into ours today.
So, even though all of this stuff is programmed that is a year old and has been viewed by 334,000 people, a quarter of a million, a third, sorry, of a million people, that's roughly, give or take, 1,000 a day. And I hope you didn't believe this BS, because at the moment, there is not one single fact. Everything is maybe if only one damaged skull, but we're telling you all about this, but we're not even necessarily sure that.
During the period from our split from the chimpanzee last common ancestor to the time of the Australopithecines, significant environmental changes occurred in Africa. These changes included a shift from predominantly forested habitats to more open grasslands and savannas due to factors such as climate change, tectonic activity, and the drying of the African continent. This transition likely influenced the evolution of our hominin lineage.
Likely. We're not sure, but likely. How do they know but millions, we're talking millions here, between 1.4 million to 10 million years ago. How do they know that all of these changes happened in the savannah in Africa? I'm being dead set serious. Everybody goes, yeah, well, everybody knows. How do they know? What is it that they do? This magic, this sorcery that lets them know what the climate was like 10 million years ago. If someone came up to you and said, how do you think the climate would be where you are, doesn't matter where you are in the world, 10,000 years ago? How would you know? How would you know what the climate was like 500 years ago? We've got the fossil thing, but it's honestly,
in several ways, such as our diet. The transition from forested habitats to grasslands may have led to changes in diet, with a
may have, if it happened at all. If it happened at all.
Shift towards more diverse and possibly harder to reach food sources, which could have influenced the development of tools and hunting strategies among early hominins. Changes in habitat may have affected social structures and behavior also among early hominins. For example, the need to cooperate in group activities such as hunting or defending territory may have become more pronounced in open environments compared to dense forests. The challenges of navigating and surviving in changing environments may have also driven increases in brain size and cognitive abilities over time, as early hominins adapted to new ecological niches and social dynamics. And obviously bipedalism, as mentioned earlier in the video. Overall, the environmental changes during this period likely played a significant role in shaping the evolutionary trajectory.
Likely. It's like, can you picture us if we didn't have the technology that we have, right? That we would live that in 10 million years from now, we would have evolved differently slightly because of the climate where we were, or because we went from hunting down deer and running real fast to, I don't know, shooting rabbits. Do you think we would have started to, our brain size would start to change, and that the bone structure would morph into something a little more suitable for the times? This stuff
of our hominin ancestors, ultimately leading to the emergence of species more closely resembling modern humans. Next, there are two potential hominin species that may be directly ancestral to us.
Maybe.
A topic that continues to be debated among scientists. Some scientists...
Where are these scientists? Why are they... I'd love to sit in on one of these, because I tell you what, governments have discovered that when you start anything that scientists have discovered, everybody's ears prick up.
Even group them together as the same species. First up is Homo rudolfensis, who lived around 2.4 million years ago until around 1.8 million years ago in Eastern Africa, specifically northern Kenya, northern Tanzania, and Malawi. There is only one really good fossil of this Homo rudolfensis, and it has one really critical feature, a brain case size.
Well, I'll pull the horses up. They only have one skull. One skull. But they've named 3 places in Africa where they were at. Listen, I'd say it's an insult to people's intelligence, but is it? Is it? Do people not listen and work out what's not being said? Because they're not saying anything.
Size of 775 cubic centimeters, a big leap from their Australopithecus predecessors, and considerably above the upper end of the other debated human ancestor I will get to after this. Rudolfensis didn't have the heavily built jaw and strong jaw muscle attachments seen in robust early humans. These anatomical differences likely indicate different diets between Rudolfensis and earlier Australopiths.
So, now what we have is different structured jaws, right? And that was because of a different diet. Maybe at some stage there all they had were lettuce to eat. And the muscle structure actually changed. They were eating lettuce for that long that the muscles deteriorated and they didn't have such a... Seriously, I listened to this, right? And it feels like it might fool children. Where am I? What is it? Why am I seeing this stuff? Seeing right through it, why?
Species capable of more powerful chewing. They lived in a predominantly grassland environment, although no associated archaeological evidence was found with any Homo rudolfensis remains.
So all of this stuff about whoever it is they're talking about, but there was never any archaeological stuff ever found. Must be the scientists just maybe thinking, getting together, a cup of coffee, and peer reviewing that shit. Not one? Did you hear that?
Chewing. They lived in a predominantly grassland environment, although no associated archaeological evidence was found with any Homo rudolfensis remains. They were living at a time when it is known that human ancestors were making tools. The next hominin is considered to be our direct ancestor over Rudolfensis and is regarded by some as the first human to walk the planet.
Regarded by some? The sun? Where is that sun? Where are they? Why? What made them think this? How could they have thought this?
Hence the name Homo habilis, meaning handyman. The difference between the two to warrant being distinct species is Rudolfensis's larger brain case, longer face, and larger molar and premolar teeth compared to Homo habilis. Other than that, they are very similar in appearance. It is generally agreed upon that Homo habilis, who spanned from 2.3 to 1.4 million years ago, is descended from a species of Australopithecus. If Homo habilis evolved in East Africa, then Australopithecus afarensis and Australopithecus garhi are its possible ancestors. But if habilis evolved in South Africa, then Australopithecus africanus and...
If my uncle had tits, he'd be my aunt. You cannot take any of this seriously, right? You people cannot be thinking this as an informative documentary, because this is absolute rubbish. It's the Horseradish Express. Guys, can you not weed out what's worth listening to and what's not?
Australopithecus sediba are candidates. Future fossil discoveries will hopefully answer this question.
Future fossil discoveries. That's what we need. Let's just hope we find at least one other damaged skull in the general Africa area, and then we can come up with another load of professional horseradish, because that is all it is.
This species, along with Homo rudolfensis, is one of the early...
Where's the scooter?
He's going to get Jamie.
Okay. Alright, mate.
Members of the genus Homo. Many scientists think it is an ancestor of later species of Homo.
Many scientists think. I bet. Haven't seen up here. I get a funny feeling that there's going to be, but other people.
Homo, and likely on our own branch of the family tree.
Maybe not.
It had a slightly larger brain of 610 cubic centimeters, some actually as low as 500, but some as high as 800, and had a smaller face and teeth than in Australopithecus or older hominin species. But it still retains some ape-like features, including long arms and a moderately prognathic face, which leads to some scientists to rather call it Australopithecus habilis, rather...
Nah, it wasn't close enough for me to call that one. Some of them are saying this.
Then assign it to the genus Homo. A big reason why most scientists think it does belong in the genus Homo is because of habilis's increased cranial capacity and comparatively smaller molar and premolar teeth of the fossils, a human-like foot, and hand bones that suggested an ability to manipulate objects with precision. Furthermore, scientists suggest they were also the first to manufacture the Oldowan stone tool into...
These scientists, where are they? Where did they learn this sorcery, this magic? Where? Honestly, people, they worked out that as soon as people here, scientists have discovered that they turn into, I don't know.
Oldowan tools were a widespread stone tool archaeological industry style in prehistory. These early tools were simple, usually made with one or a few flakes chipped off with another stone. The system included choppers, scrapers, and pounders. They mainly used the tools in the butchering of animals. A massive step in human evolution, although it is not thought habilis hunted the animals themselves, and instead are thought of as a scavenger hominin. Homo...
Hang on. They used, what was it? Bashers, scrapers, whatever, for slaughtering, I think he actually said slaughtering animals. But it is thought that they were scavengers. I mean, hello? Guys, this is just, if people are falling for this as part of the evidence for evolution, I am afraid, people, that we need to sit down and have a serious talk about some common sense issues and how to recognize stuff that is and isn't real, or is and isn't possible.
Habilis lived in a predominantly grassland environment. The climate was becoming cooler and drier, and this may have been the impetus for new feeding strategies that included scavenging and tool use.
How did they know that at this certain time, where they have one or two broken down fossils, that the climate was... Listen, this is exactly what I'm talking about. Listen, nobody knows hardly anything about what happened in our past, right? For crying out loud, they think the Egyptians carved the equivalent weight of 135 battle-ready Nimitz class aircraft carriers out of somewhere using only bare hands and copper hand tools. This, look, it's just...
Chemical analysis suggests that this species was mainly vegetarian, but did of course include meat in their diet. Habilis groups are suggested...
Hello? Did you? Oh, that's got me after this. Listen.
The grassland environment. The climate was becoming cooler and drier, and this may have been the impetus for new feeding strategies that included scavenging and tool use. Chemical analysis suggests that this species was mainly vegetarian, but did of course include meat in their diet. Habilis groups are suggested to have numbered...
So not vegetarian, you know.
70 to 85 members. This configuration would be advantageous with multiple males to defend against open savanna predators such as big cats, hyenas and crocodiles of their time. Habilis coexisted with Paranthropus boisei, a species of robust Australopithecine, but not thought to be in our own lineage, Homo rudolfensis, and most definitely our very own ancestor in some way, Homo erectus. But as they were living at the same time, how could erectus evolve from Habilis, if Habilis was still around when erected evolved, and coexisted for about 500,000 years? The theory being is a group of Habilis may have been reproductively isolated, and only this group developed into Homo erectus. This is called cladogenesis. This event usually occurs when a few organisms end up in new, often distant areas, or when environmental changes cause several extinctions, opening up ecological niches for the survivors and causing population bottlenecks and founder effects, changing allele frequencies of diverging populations compared to their ancestral population. The events that caused these species to originally separate from each other over distant areas may still allow both of the species to have equal chances of surviving, reproducing, and even evolving to better suit their environments while still being two distinct species due to subsequent natural selection, mutations, and genetic.
Señoras y señores, esto es una mierda. Guys, I worry there are too many people. Nobody questions there are too many people claiming knowledge that simply cannot be known. All I hear is scientists this, scientists that. Where are they? Where are they? How do they do all of this stuff? They don't. They're making shit up, the same as they do about space. I'll give you a good one. The sun is going to go red giant in 4 or 5 billion years. How on earth can anybody call that? It's new words. Beyond comprehension is the usual phrase. How does anybody know? When did the first space telescope, decent one, go up? 1980s, 1990, the Hubble. We are now in 35, let's say 50 years. People have been observing absolute light in the skies for, let's say, 50 years properly. Where did the knowledge come from for somebody to be able to call that our sun is going to go red giant in approximately 4 to 5 billion years? What is it? What process? See, this is where people, you're just taking it hook, line and sinker. If somebody looks at the sky for 50 years, 24 hours a day, right? Every second, every minute and every hour for 50 years, what will they learn? What will they learn? Got a camera, something, recording everywhere for 50 years. How are you going to know what happened 100 years before you started your 50-year recording? What is it that is going to let you know what happened 100 years before? What would give you any information about you film 50 years? What is going to give you any information about what would happen 100 years later, right? Your whole window of information is 50 years. So you have a block of 50 years, you've been observing the skies, right? How is it that they know what happened 13.8 billion years ago? Oh, because of the shift and the speed of absolute rubbish. It is information, knowledge being claimed that simply can't be, it just cannot be known. If you've fallen, well, you obviously have fallen for it, then it's not possible. 50 years. Telescopes, space telescopes, decent discoveries, it's all bullshit. In 50 years of observing, what is it that has allowed somebody to make claims about what our sun is going to do in 4 to 5 billion years? Go red giant. How has anybody worked that out over a 50-year period since they've been looking at the skies? This is the bit that everybody's missing. They are throwing so much impossible knowledge at everyone, and people are just falling for it. It therefore gives them a platform onto which throw more bullshit, and still the crowd loves it. And you find yourself now being absolutely bamboozled by liars and charlatans. You think you now will find reasons how they can do these things because you've been fooled. And it's I'm I am the shit stirrer, right? But I'm seeing through this crap like a child should be able to see through it. The claims, the knowledge being claimed, it's insane. It's insane. It's insane, and it's everywhere. Right, that's going to be easy. 20-something minutes again, isn't it? So, layers, peeps, just start thinking.